Welcome to part 3 of the healing journey. So we are in chapter 8 of vertical marriage, talking about the healing journey. And, the Christian life is really exciting, adventurous. Remember when God provided for Israel in the wilderness with manna, right? Fresh manna every day. They had to go out and gather every day for their sustenance, for their survival. And it really is like that, isn't it? I mean, it's like, you can't really store up a whole lot and coast. Every day it's just, seeking the Lord, renewing, your encounters with Him. And today, my goodness, today is just such a wonderful resource that we have with media and with all kinds of, apps and things online and that weren't available when I was back in the day, right? When I was first a believer, back when I was in Bible school. I mean, there wasn't really the internet or computers really to speak of. That's why I still love books to this day. I love to have the feel of a book in my hands and even to smell the book, right? But I do also use apps and other resources. And I will be doing another segment, as I mentioned, of resources for the healing journey. Now, again, there is a wide array of authors and all kinds of resources out there. Some I've never even, really read, but I've read enough and experienced enough to be able to share with you, the sources I've found, the watering holes I've found. It's kind of like going to a restaurant, right? And you have friends that go to different restaurants than you do, and you're like, I never knew about this place. Oh my gosh, I got to go there, And so we have our watering holes, our places that we're comfortable with, things that fit well for us. The important thing is to keep going in the journey. And one thing to be aware of, and this is in chapter 8, that I have one of the headings there is called "Beware of Transference." Beware of transference. Now, transference means to convey information or content from one person, place, or situation to another. So it's like when you experience a person in the present as if he or she were a person in your past. I mean, a blatant example could be you get a new job and your boss looks like and reminds you of your uncle from when you were a child that was verbally abusive and just a mean person. And it's like you go and you get this new job and you realize that the manager you're assigned to is like your uncle in so many ways. And so transference would be kind of like experiencing an emotional reaction, experiencing something within your heart towards that person, but it's really rooted in your past. You're just transferring what you felt then to now. And pastors and leaders are especially prone to transference. So, being a pastor, being a leader, I've had many situations, over the past in ministry where people are just, experiencing me in a certain negative way because I remind them of something in their past. So it's especially something we have to be aware of. And transference is also a close cousin to projection, another psychological term. So emotions can be tricky to discern. Sometimes if you're experiencing feelings from the past, you want to be able to view them objectively and deal with them as feelings from the past. So often in marriage, where a man and woman get married, they create a new family, just the two of them, a new household. Then children come into play. And oftentimes things from your past will just seem to kind of rise to the surface. And you might not be aware that it's really not your spouse or your new family that's the source of what you're feeling. It's your family of origin, or the people that you grew up with, early on in your life. But usually the spouse plays a leading role in the fact that experiencing transference or being the victim of transference, oftentimes the spouse will be a primary recipient of that. I'll give you an example. When we were married for about 4 years, we had 3 young children. So we had like a 4-year-old, an almost 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So we had 3 beautiful children. And I found myself one day, observing my wife. She was just loving on our boys, our 2 little boys. She was just hugging them and kissing them and being affectionate to them. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, I just felt this like jealous feeling coming up in my heart for as far as the affection she was giving to my boys. And so, from a rational viewpoint, right, I knew right away in my mind that she was not like neglecting her husband. She was not like, in love with her boys and not me, not at all. So it wasn't rational. It wasn't anything that, had any really truth to it. But the emotions were there in me and I knew it. And so I never really got a lot of affection, growing up. I don't remember any times of like being on mom and dad's lap or reading a story or getting hugs or, wrestling with my dad or any kind of like closeness or affection. I don't really recall that. And so, I was basically, as they say, triggered by this interaction. And so I went to see a couple of fellow pastors on the church staff where I was serving at the time, and I just asked them, to pray with me. And so they took me through a few sessions of good inner healing prayer, where I was able just to, forgive my dad, forgive my mom, and just ask the Lord to minister to those places in me and to reveal Himself to me, and to hear what He thought about me, even in my childhood. And so again, I do not recommend trying to trace every emotional event back to some childhood root cause. Okay, this is not a formula. This is not like a math equation. Oops, I'm feeling some emotion. That guy just cut me off in traffic, and I let out with profanity. I feel anger. I wonder where that's rooted. No, I mean that could just be your sin, and you need to repent of your anger. Right? May not necessarily have a root in some memory where some kid cut you off with his bicycle in 4th grade. Okay, I'm trying to be funny here, but we don't want to get too off on it to be focused too much on ourself in this regard. And so, when I was born again at age 21, as I've mentioned, I went to a church, and I was at this church for 18 years. The last 10 of which I was on staff at the church. And it was a wonderful church, a wonderful spiritual father, a man he was probably 20 years older than me, probably in his 40s, something like that at the time. He was my spiritual father, my first spiritual father. And so I put a lot of expectation, really in an unhealthy way, upon him to meet my needs. And that kind of played out at different times. If I saw him having lunch with some of the other pastors or going out with people, and I'd be, in the office looking out in the parking lot, and he'd be getting in the car with this pastor or that pastor, and I would have this ache inside, like, what about me? Spend time with me. I want to be your favorite. Those types of things are really indicators for us to seek the Lord and talk to a trusted, counselor or coach or something in our lives. But it came to a point after being 10 years on staff there that he met with us one time and just felt like it was time for us to launch out on our own, to take our own church, our own pastorate. This was not on my radar. I did not want to do this, but that's what he kind of felt. And so it wasn't an option. And so he helped me to find a church in a nearby city. So this was year 12 of our marriage when this happened. Again, timeline of transformation. We first got married. We had no idea what was going to happen in year 12, right? I mean, you just never know what's going to happen in your life. And so I had to transition. We'll talk about transitions in a later session. But I had a transition. I just had to do it. I had no choice. It was either get a secular job or take this new ministry assignment. So instead of going to work for Walmart or Costco or whatever, because I didn't really have any other skill, I took the ministry assignment. And I went for counseling at the time. Somebody encouraged me to get some counseling because I was really depressed, very sad. I wasn't handling it all that well. I went through the process. I took the pastor to the church and started working there. But I got counseling. I had, I think, 6 or so sessions with a counselor. She was a Christian counselor, but it wasn't Christianese. It wasn't like prayer. It was pretty much her identifying that what I was doing was grieving, that it was a loss I was experiencing. And so she also happened to be an art therapist. So there I was, making collages, cutting out pictures from magazines, putting them on a poster board. She just wanted me to get my emotions out and expressed some way so that she could help me work through them. And so, the loss that was there, it was probably tied into maybe the loss I felt, the vacuum that was in my life from not being fathered at a deep level by my biological father. My 2 older brothers, great guys in a lot of ways, but didn't really take me under their wing or do a whole lot with me. So I wasn't, mentored by older brothers. And so what I had going at this church for the 18 years I was there, I was like really, really enjoying it. And then when I was like asked or encouraged to leave and given another assignment, I felt rejected. It was like something died. And so this counselor helped me to grieve through this season in my life. And so, how it affected our marriage basically was it kind of just established a new frame around our marriage in a sense. It was kind of like, okay, we've transitioned. Our children were like 8, 9, 11 years old, something like that. They were transitioning. They had to leave their group of friends, go to a different city where they didn't know anybody. So our whole family was just really pressed into, it was almost like a trial of sorts, to put our roots down somewhere brand new, almost like being a missionary. We were going into a different culture, and it was a test. But all of us had to press in, and we had to dig deep in our marriage and really just trust the Lord for that transition season. So I got counseling in that season when I needed it, and it was very, very helpful. And so the end of the day, what we're really after is a marriage of integrity and, getting truth in the inner being, healing in our emotions, just staying close to God no matter what's happening in our life, and consistently praying for the purity of a healed and whole heart. I call that an emotional antioxidant for the health of your marriage. No matter what you're going through, whether it's in marital conflict, whether it's just personal conflict, or a combination of both, just continue to pray for the Lord to go deeper. Lord, establish truth in my inner man, whatever it takes. Take me to those places that are still hurting in my life. Send me trusted people, reliable people, safe people to share my heart with. Lead me to safe resources online, good teaching. And again, the resources section hopefully will be a help to you. But I just pray that you'll be blessed, and we'll be back probably with part 4 of the healing journey. I think I'm going to share a few more things with you as well. So we'll see you then.